Hi, I'm Tim Jefferson. I'm with Spirent Communications. I'm a VP of Marketing and GM of our enterprise product.
I'm Mattke Norwood. Oh, hi, I'm Mattke Norwood. I'm just a network engineer guy.
Robert Novak.
Edward Haletky.
Frank Owen.
Tony Mattke.
Colin McNamara.
Lauren Malhoit.
Excellent. Okay. Besides looking at pictures of cool waves, today I just have a short presentation. You guys were actually the esteemed group that saw the first look at this solution. So I think Network Field Day was the very first group to see our pre-release of this platform that we're launching into the enterprise. And when I heard you guys were in town, I wanted to get in front of you guys and give you some feedback about what I've learned since we've launched it. We launched it in January at the Cisco Live Show. And kind of give you some insight on what we've seen and learned, and also share with you some of the plans for the future. I think you guys will be interested. And hopefully entice you guys to come by the booth and check out a demo of the GUI. All right? So, to kick off the discussion, the big thing for Spirent was trying to learn about the challenges that the average enterprise user was having beyond the scope of what our bigger, more professional tools do, right? We learned that we did an exhaustive sort of full year of research on our own with other analysts and talking to individual enterprise network engineers similar to yourself, understand the kind of tools they were using, the lack of tools in the marketplace. And it was consistent that we got this drum of the same feedback from the community, which was that testing networks and applications are becoming more complex, apps are getting more distributed, network infrastructure is getting flatter, bigger, faster, more expensive, lots of migration, demigration to and from the cloud. Most of the engineers that I talked to really struggle with firefighting. It seems that they solve the same problem consistently over and over again, and it's difficult. Time resource, time, money, and people to get ahead of that cycle. Many of them told me that they didn't feel like they had the tools to really help them get through that. And I'll share with you some more insight there. And then, of course, I think you guys had some fun with this last time, just about the percentage of outages and what human error or not, whether 70% or 99%, I don't know. We give 1% to power supplies. But I'll tell you what I've learned since our last chat, some insights I learned, which is really interesting, on tools. So there seems to be this huge divide in the marketplace today. I'm interested in your feedback too. Is that there's sort of the haves and the have-nots. The haves, bigger data center engineers, more experienced, tend to have the resources to pull in bigger, more professional testing tools, have been trained on them, can afford them. And then there's this huge, broad community, which is everything kind of less than the Fortune 100, that, I've heard some amazing, creative, innovative solutions on how to do tests. People using FTP servers from home as traffic generators. I knew a guy who figured out how to use Skype as a traffic generator. People using network taps like, an AXON or a NetOptics. Going to customer different locations, tapping off their traffic, then collecting the results and putting it into an APM or NPM tool and trying to model what's going on. And they're trying to use that to get an insight about how new services would behave in the existing customer's application. And they had a really difficult time with that. And these are the problems that we're trying to solve with AXON. Just basic traffic modeling, app network and application performance modeling, site assessments, application assessments. These are the key things we're trying to address, and again, beyond the scope of what the bigger tools do. And, we looked at a lot of the to-do lists that IT guys are talking to us about, and hopefully this will resonate with some of you. But one of it is just, data center assessments on, does it scale? Is the performance there to help roll out some of these new services, virtualization services, migrating a certain app or a segment of an app into the cloud or not, whether you get it as a PaaS or not, which framework in that PaaS do you want to use, how well does it scale, whether you're going to be V4 or V6. These are the kind of basic services that, I know you guys all know how to do, but there doesn't seem to be one tool that's or platform that allow you to kind of do it all quickly and verify this working, maybe even show a customer, like, look, I verified this config works, I verified this architecture works. We've had a chance to play with this new technology. It's not something new that, Cisco, Juniper, Brocade, or whoever we're playing with. We've actually had a chance to verify that, this service does, in fact, is quantifiable, or as Colin says, defensible, right? Defensible posture saying, hey, this technology is better, whatever that could mean for the customer. So we wanted to build a solution that could help the masses with that, and not just sort of the Fortune 50. So we launched this product in January. We called it Spirent AXON. Here's our little elevator pitch. The goal here is to really allow engineers and regular IT people deploy new services faster, applications, networks, infrastructure, technology, get out in the field. And the key thing here, the key innovation for us here was usability and affordability. Right? How can we make the product so easy to use, yet powerful enough, with enough geek knobs on there, that more trained engineers can really find the power out of this box and figure out how to really do more robust testing with it, but also affordable enough that you can use it kind of on every single day. So we launched it in January with really good success. We had really fast pickup. We ran into a big supply-demand problem. And I think the initial network field day guys kind of warned me on this, because we had aspired to launch not only a hardware-based solution, but an all-software-based solution. Yeah. That you can load this as an agent in any VM and do tests. And we hadn't been able to finish the software, the pure software solution yet. And that's just because we're still tuning some of the performance characteristics of the different flavors of hypervisors. So we are kind of customized our hypervisor. You get a lot of clock drift from the different NICs through the hypervisor, and we have some innovation there to tune that up. We've been able to do that within our own hardware platform, so we launched that. Yeah, great success. So happy to share that with you guys today at the show floor. And I want to spend.
I really need to ask a basic question.
Sure.
I keep on referencing a previous network field day. Now, people that haven't been to a network field day or are just listening for the first time, they may have no idea what you're talking about.
Sure.
So, what is AXON?
Sure.
Is it a cloud-based service? Is it not? I'm still trying to figure that one out.
I saw a picture of a cloud there.
I saw a picture of a cloud.
I saw a picture of a cloud.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about it. Yeah,
Silly. Let's start with what it is and go from there.
Sure. It is software. We found a way to virtualize the hardware-based solutions that Spirent makes, and we built a new platform we call AXON. This is what it looks like. We are able to virtualize, Spirent Test Center, which is what Dave and the crew showed today. We virtualize that software. We're able to virtualize the other test platforms. We run them as virtual machines, and we disguise all the complexity of those applications with a new HTML5 based browser. This browser had a number of covenants. It was, to drive ease of use, we wanted to rip out all the industry terms and dogma and jargon out of the product. So the language and the test methodology was built into the solution. So it has a new web-based GUI that basically hides, a lot of the capabilities and the complexity of the more complex solutions and presents it in a way to enterprise users specific for the use cases. So we built the solution completely tailored around the use cases that enterprise guys told us they wanted to do. It runs on off-the-shelf hardware.
You have VMware's logo there. Are you talking about running on their hypervisor, or is that just because you wanted to say it's VM?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's just a cool thing I stole from the slide. I just wanted to show that they were virtual machines. So maybe not doing. So we launched it as an appliance.
I think it already came out there using KVM.
We are actually using a Yocto-based sort of custom hypervisor right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and the kernel's a little Yocto-based as well. That was really to get the precision on the timing. So it's a little custom right now, the solution. So we customized the hypervisor a bit, and it's more about pulling the oscillator off these Intel NICs and into the kernel, and we use the kernel as a common time domain for the entire platform. That just gives us really tight precision and accuracy of our results.
Okay. That's just pretty cool.
That's actually extremely cool.
So what we did is...
Are you considering making a generic box that does that for people that actually need that level of timing control, such as real-time virtual machines?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. We did this really because we wanted to differentiate and drive what we thought that, we're hearing some feedback about performance. You guys had an interesting discussion today about what's the right level of precision. Is it, I'm a Spirent guy, so I'm sort of brainwashed that everything has to be sub-millisecond in order to be of value, and I've been sort of bashed over the head and taught that that's not important.
Honestly, deliverable testing, 100 millisecond barriers of the gross groupings all tend to characterize the networking, especially if you're doing a lot of writing your own test harnesses. If you are spoiled or you have a high cost gear, or maybe you have lower cost AXON software, they have better visibility, you can drive it down. But I'd say between 10 and 50 milliseconds seems to be valid in my case. I'm generally worried about a TCP timeout. If you're starting to characterize independent network functions, then I think it becomes more and more important to precisely measured. And I think in the era of software-defined topologies, that as we start to write features that, say we're writing our own network firewall function, that characterizing even down to the, I'd say 1 to 5 millisecond level is good.
Yeah.
Down below that, very, very important for network test or for networking vendors.
Device testing, maybe.
Yeah, it's more device testing. At a network at scale, you can chase every bug around if you're.
Yeah, so we were looking at really the timing architectures, and in order for me to get consistent sort of 1 millisecond resolution, which I thought was important, so you understood what the precision was, that this solution actually gets a sub-millisecond resolution, which is pretty cool. So it's a little more than what we need, but we're able to...
don't get me wrong, it's really nice to have. There's just a lot of times that you don't have it, so if you're building your processes not needing it, then...
I think, and the only time we're really exposing in the product is when you're doing frame testing, so when you're putting different frame sizes on, we'll measure jitter, and sometimes looking at jitter at a millisecond or maybe sub-millisecond resolution will give you some good insights.
No,
that's kind of when we pull it out. So we think, the architecture is really cool. We have an interesting paradox with this particular platform is that I already have all the features any customer's ever asked me for. My challenge is trying not to expose them. Just showing just enough that makes sense for enterprise use cases, because I can quickly turn this into test center, and all of a sudden I'm competing against the bigger platform, and I've recreated.
How many VMs does it actually run?
Right now, we run 2 at a time at most, so we tend to have, internally we call it Tomahawk VMs, or little secret code names here. But this is the main framework that holds the application, and then we load up one other VM we tend to use as the traffic generator. So we ask for different functions of this. We'll say, hey, I want just 3 streams of these frame sizes, and we subscribe to these results. That's it. And I'll present it back in a new way. Or I want to create 5 hosts, and I want to use the ARPing function on this service. So we tend to just ask for different services from the VMs and pull it out here as required.
How much data can this traffic create?
Full line rate. So we have 2 flavors of the solution. It is a 4-port 1 gig solution and a 2-port 10 gig. They both do full line rate, 64 byte frames and full line rate.
So one of the things this may have come up in the earlier discussion, actually, I think it's relevant to the virtual machine instance. A lot of the stuff that I've been working with lately is software defining network systems and storage data centers, right? And that utilizing these delivery pipelines like Jenkins, where you're actually creating application development and quality assurance stages, where you're having, like, you submit your code to some source control, the code actually defines the network, and it's actually going through a series of automated test suites to test code quality, different guidelines, documentation, whatever, and then progressing through more and more complex tests until eventually it's ready for user acceptance tests in production. Jenkins being one of like 40 systems that are out there, but it's a free open source one that's common. I know you had talked about the website available to push test cases down. Have you guys experimented with releasing maybe a Jenkins plugin, so you could actually have these VMs in your QA environment, so you can start to integrate some of this this network feature testing in the QA system.
Kind of. I mean, so to direct answer your question is no, we don't
Okay.
have it. But there's lots of talk about this, and we have something I want to share with you. I'll put at the end of this presentation.
Yeah.
We do have a cloud-based offering that I'm putting in this product as well.
Cool.
That auto scales, auto provisions. It's pretty cool, and it has a number of plugins with other vendors as well. You know, a lot of the APM community, New Relic, Copper Egg, Engineer. We have all this kind of API plugins, Atlassian, all this kind of stuff. And we think that once we can get the timing precision so it'll work instead of this custom thing, we have it work on VM, so sorry to go, but and everybody else's flavor, that will throw the whole solution into the cloud. And then anyone can use it. We could work on exactly what you're just saying, all these kinds of plugins.
Wouldn't you still have to have a custom-built cloud because noisy neighbors would destroy your tests?
They say they can custom build cloud because
Noisy neighbors would destroy the test.
maybe.
It really depends.
If you put this at Amazon, I guarantee you have noisy neighbors.
I don't know if they destroy it, but it actually show the real characterization of your environment. So it may actually just be a really great test.
Could be a great
because you
test.
actually characterize your environment. So if your production environment's running in a state where you're in contention with other traffic, gaining visibility to that reality is actually a really good thing.
Oh, absolutely, but I'm talking about
Yeah.
this is a cloud service running from somebody else's cloud, not mine.
I mean, what I heard you say is you're gonna deploy and distribute the Spirent AXON machine images up at Amazon, so you can basically click a cloud formation and deploy a Spirent into your technologies to validate these
Yeah,
features.
we have this today. I'll show you on my next slide. We have load generators in Amazon today. We refer to them as regions. You pick a region where you want to run a load test from. And right now they do, web API, web app testing. And we're thinking about continuing to add, more AXON type capability.
Is there any notion of replicating that for on-premise clouds, OpenStack, CloudStack? So, Eucalyptus.
Say that again?
So on-premise cloud environments, OpenStack being the most prevalent nowadays, Eucalyptus and CloudStack being the two others, but the ability to say, okay, we're gonna deliver a AXON machine image which can be used to validate true private cloud environments.
Yeah, what we're thinking of, and you may have shot over my head here, but one thing we're doing with the cloud-based solution that runs today is it runs only in Amazon, right? And it provisions it auto scales. It's really cool. There's all the billing, bada boom. We're going to have a downloadable agent in that. So instead of running Amazon, you download it, you run it wherever you want.
Okay.
And
But
that
does
will.
that mean you're using the Amazon load generators?
No, that way you don't have. So this way, right now, since it's in Amazon, all the regions you're testing from are coming from Amazon.
Yeah.
So wherever Amazon is, we are today, all around the world. But a lot of people come to us and say, I don't want to use Amazon. I want to test private cloud.
Yeah.
I want to take and do my own web app API load testing inside the firewall.
Yep.
I want to do it from Rackspace. I want to do it somewhere else. I like the service. It's easy to use. I can afford it, but you're in Amazon. You're no good to me. So we created a downloadable version of that. You can put it anywhere you want.
That's exactly it. You can load it up as a machine image up in whatever image repository, whatever cloud you choose.
Yeah.
Being agnostic
Is
here.
there a limit to how many of these I need based on how big my network is?
It's the limit, the scale limitations of the engines are around performance. So the engines that we have max out at around 50,000 users, total users. And that's more of a limitation around the port numbers. Obviously, there's only 64,000 port numbers. So we kind of cap each engine's ability at 50,000. So I hope this answers your question. If you wanted to run 1 million, user test against, a website, it would take a lot of these engines. For instance, we had a Red Bull use us. Do you remember the guy who jumped from outer space? Felix, whatever his name is.
Baumgartner.
Yeah. So they used this service to test that site to see, how well it would scale with everybody logging on the website to check it out. But if you use the download agent, you have to use a bunch. Yeah. So I have a couple slides for you, just kind of walk you through what AXON is and the types of use cases, and I'll dig in some detail here so you guys can fire any kind of detailed questions. The first few use cases, so again, we put this test library in there so no one would have to like figure out how to test and learn test methodology. We have a library, you just scroll through the library and you're like, I want a network performance test, and we load the entire test, we provision all the results, we do everything for you, and all the user has to do is really decide what type of traffic he wants to put on the wire. You know, what's the frame size profile, what's the application mix. He puts it on, he hits go, little go button, boom. So these are the use cases that we heard. You know, one are sort of data center versus, you know, site assessments. So you want to assume if a data center infrastructure, it could be a physical or logical segment, it could be end-to-end, you know, because we can emulate hosts and servers. So this is doing tests that'll do packet loss, latency, jitter, throughput for low-level metrics. And it'll also do application testing, so it'll be TCP connection rate, HTTP response times, total concurrence, you know, so a lot of application metrics as well. So you'll get layer 2 through 7 sort of visibility on that. The second set of use cases, and this is kind of cool, we have some unique capabilities here, is site-to-site WAN assessment testing. So a lot of engineers, especially kind of SI guys who go on site and you have to turn up links, they're like, hey, you know, I got a guy over here, we're doing ping, you know, trying to load a web page, you know, and trying to measure the performance. And they're using bidirectional tests, which, as you guys know, is not a super great indicator of the performance of the link. You may have two different providers on each side. And so this allows you to run unidirectional tests. Now, the big challenge with test equipment on this, that it's difficult to solve, is that if you're using the traffic generator and you're trying to get some precise measurements, the two different sides have to agree on what time of day it is, because the traffic generators tend to stamp every packet, and the other side wants to stamp it, and they have to agree on when the start time was. So we use, this is interesting, you guys may know this already, but it was a discovery for us, that we just said, hey, let's support NTP. And from working with the vendors and talking to people, the perception with us is that NTP will give you maybe 5, 10 millisecond resolution at best, and maybe 50. But what we found was even a poorly architected NTP solution was giving a sub-millisecond resolution, which was very surprising. It was very consistent. So we're getting very precise results, you know. So again, same types of tasks, packet loss, latency, jitter, application performance from any two locations geographically. It's pretty cool. Just we'll slow the thing up, rack it up, put 2 access ports, go back to the cube, use your iPad, drag a playlist into the player, hit go. And the last two here are around application modeling. So you can put different, types of applications and see how well they perform. So different voice codecs, video assessments, video codecs, have 200 users, 500 users. If you have a company that's doing an acquisition, they have 200 users, they're buying a company of 300, how's the network going to perform with 500 people now? So you can load up the network with 500 HTTP users, 500 people on their VoIP using a certain codec, and measure how well that performance is. Super easy.
Again, how realistic is the testing? Are you just looking for max numbers or worst case?
Well, I think the use cases that people tell us were, they just want to know how well it's scaling, basic stuff. Hey, if I put up 200 users, what's my response time?
Again,
200 users of what?
of what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because, I mean, if I'm talking about voice, I could have one user that stays on the phone for like 5 hours at a time versus a bunch of them only on for a couple of minutes.
So I have
different ways of dealing with it.
I'd love to show you guys this in the booth, but I can walk through a couple scenarios. So we have a traffic layer that allows you kind of choose for each type of protocol. You can tweak it. So you can say HTTP 1.1, medium-sized object size, and I want 300 users with, and I'll emulate client and servers, and you can even tell the server what the server response does. So you're roughly getting it right. Saying, hey, this server's going to have 100 millisecond response time. I'm going to use HTTP 1.1, and I want 100 users. And for each user, we do 10 transactions. So it's roughly setting up. Then you can load up voice. You say, okay, of those 300 people, 70 of them will be on the phone. I want the phone conversations to be a minute each, and they're going to use this codec. And then I have 2 video conferencing systems, both doing H.264, 8 meg, Go.
You know, that's too complex for some users. You're telling me to make a decision on packet size. No, tell me it's like I'm doing 1,000 Google searches.
But you forget, so Spirent has web scale test harnesses that you can spend $250,000 just to get started with, and they're really, really awesome, and by the way, are used by web scale providers quite heavily. And AXON is about lowering the barrier to entry to...
That's what I mean, but if you're going to lower the barrier of entry, you also have to understand that the people that are using it are also a low level of knowledge.
So I think it's showing the web page of the iPad app.
Check
it out.
I think you can get down to those options, you don't have to.
Size? I don't know what a website
Well,
of medium
no.
size is.
So the rest of the community saw this already?
All I know my people are using YouTube, Google, and this.
No, check out the player. It's click and play. It's actually really neat.
So I pulled up the GUI here real quick. There's no way to...
So
we can frame sizes. You can open up the player,
Ouch.
and you can drag different frame sizes. So,
Again, the people maybe using this have no clue what a frame size is. So I need to test my network. I know that I have Google being used or whatnot. Make it a little bit easier.
Well,
this is how easy it is. I said,
Well, network engineers do, but small businesses don't hire CCIEs.
I guess you have canned.
so what I have is, the test methodologies. To answer your question, I think we thought this through. You'll ultimately be the judge. When you load up a test, it'll actually load the player for you, so you don't have to think of anything. And we have, on the playlist, I'll have something called an enterprise mix. You don't even have to know what it is. We decided what it is, and we put it in there, and there's some research on it, so you don't even have to think.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
we'll
I'm
continue to update them. That's part of the service on here. So every month, as we learn more about what a real enterprise mix or a financial mix is or a healthcare mix, we'll just have it as an available option on the playlist. And if you decide to use it, you're like, hey, I like voice, video, and HTTP, you just drag it in there. You don't have to decide what it is. You don't have to figure out how many uses it is. You just slide back up and
That's what I was talking about.
I'm telling you, it's pretty cool, man.
No, that is cool. I like that. That works for me.
You know what's funny though, and what I think is funny about it? If you actually look at the enterprise test units or the large, expensive, you can just keep writing POs to use it. Test units that the large network test vendors have. You end up with these very finite use cases, which are very tightly coupled to like what network vendors want, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, those networks still fail when you put live workloads. To your point, I think the AXON the AXON products probably. I will venture to say more real world than some of the other products from Ixia or from Spirent. Sorry. Actually, no, we can say it's more real world than your competition.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot more sense to me, but you were talking network packet lengths. I mean, quite frankly, the small businesses that may want to use this, they don't have the network engineers.
This is more commercial mid-market stuff. These are network, probably you're going to look, I see this, and customer has, $500,000 to $1 million spend a year, still well below the bar necessary to purchase the high-end test cases. But it's probably had some outages or some issues due to insertion of new applications or new topologies come up that can't validate.
I can actually see this for some medium businesses that have so much traffic throughput that they have no way to test it without putting code in production. This could be a solution for that as well.
Yeah, that's neat.
Cool. How much time do I got? A couple of minutes or? Okay. Okay, last thing I want to tell you is, since you guys are always the first to find out, is we are, so this cloud-based solution I've been telling you about is called Blitz, blitz.io. So it's a SaaS-based load generation tool, so check it out. And the engine itself, as I told you, we're going to do this downloadable agent. So we're putting the downloadable agent inside of AXON. So that means, I'll even show you a demo. So if I drag this in here, what AXON does right now is what us tester people call a two-arm test. I'll emulate the clients and hosts, the users, and I'll also emulate the servers, so you don't have to you don't have to configure anything.
Yeah.
I'll be the web server and the clients, I'll do 100, and we test the infrastructure, and you can see how well it performs in the middle. Firewall, load balancer, switches, whatever you want to do. But a lot of people want to test a real server. They're like, hey, I have my SQL server here, my Oracle, or I'm doing a web page, and we're doing a promotion, and I expect 10,000 people to hit the site. I just wrote a bunch of code. How will it work? So now all you have to do is type in the URL for the site here, www.myinternalsite.com. you can open this up and say, you know, I want to simulate, you know, 10,000 users, and I go up here and I want to run the test for 10 minutes, and you can hit go, and we'll blast the site, get response
DDoS
time.
tool.
And we're going to pull in, Colin, what you're saying.
Yeah.
If the customer is using New Relic or Copper Egg or any of this other stuff, you can collect the
Pull the
results, so
instrumentation
that
from the
stuff
past
all
layer.
into the single UI. So it's going to be
Wait,
really cool.
actually, yeah, I want you to expand on that. I mean, maybe that's a great thing to close on for further discussion, but I mean, like New Relic is a little bit, supposedly, I mean, you look at the Rap Genius issue that they had with Heroku, but, you know, it gives application, like application level performance validation. And so you're pulling in everything from New Relic, or are you pushing this testing, this information into the New Relic console, or?
So yeah, if you're a New Relic customer, you can connect with the API. So we'll pull the New Relic information and pull it into our blitz.io console, which coincidentally is hosted in Heroku.
Okay.
But the engine itself, we're going to put in here now.
Okay.
So if the customer is using, you know, one of the partners, these Blitz partners, we'll use that same the single sign-on, collect all this information, and we'll pull it back into the results.
That's kind of cool. And I'll throw something out. If Rap Genius was using AXON in conjunction with their with New Relic on the Heroku platform, would they have found out about the performance inconsistencies before 6 months?
Yeah. Should use it.
What?
They should use it.
Yeah. That's really
So I
neat.
actually use New Relic, and I would love to try this out.
Yeah.
This customer.
So even on the New Relic site, there's a little thing to Blitz. So you can check blitz.io. It's just a cloud-based load tool. It's really cool. It's about to be much cooler. All right, I'm getting the wrap sign. So hope to see you guys at the booth. I'd love to show you all my, you know, the dorky knobs on here. We try to keep it super easy, but, you know, for all the people who like the widgets, there's some secret widgets in here too that I think you'd appreciate.
I like that.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.